All right, we are live today, and we have Jessica on today. Do you prefer Jess or Jessica?
Either one is fine.
All right, cool. Well, we're going to give a couple minutes for everyone to log on so we can learn today about starting a side hustle. So,
Yay!
yeah, we're pretty excited.
I'm just a little
Uh,
excited, just a little,
just a little bit.
a little.
So,
We know this
see
is
some
your
people logging on
thing,
here.
the thing that you love to talk about,
Totally.
tech biz girl.
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
fan. I'm a side hustle fan. It's true.
Yeah, yeah.
So we got some people logging on. So, Jess, you're in Chicago, right?
Yes, I am.
Nice. Yeah, we have some people all over the country, so let's try to see where people are today.
Awesome.
Yeah. So welcome, welcome. Got a couple more people logging on here.
And I met Jess at 1871, right? When
Mhm.
you were leading the Wisdom program, which was so awesome.
Yes, it was a really great
Awesome.
program.
Yeah, so cool to be around so many female entrepreneurs who were just doing such exciting work. Even today, hashtag Sparkle. I see that they're up and running and really doing some great things. Sparkle Car Wash.
Some people saying hello here.
Oh, that's great.
Hi, everyone.
We can make these pop-ups. Pretty fun.
Yeah, I love that.
Fun.
Yeah, jump in. Let us know where you're from.
And yeah, anytime during the presentation, if anything really resonates with you, throw us a comment. We'd love to get you interacting on the screen here.
Yeah.
So hello, people.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. So this is really, I think, my first Facebook Live.
Wow. Well, it's the hip thing to do. Yeah.
It is. It is.
Oh.
Video freaks me out.
Beth on here.
I can believe that.
Really?
Now it's Zoom everything, so.
I know.
It's video all day, every day.
Yeah. And you want the days where you don't have to do video.
Yeah. Yay, Madison is represented.
California.
California.
Hi, California. Yeah.
All right. Well, let me start giving a little bit of an introduction. So welcome to our Purse Strings Facebook Live today. We're so excited to have everyone here. Purse Strings is really built to have a safe community to provide women education about all financial topics. A lot of people, we talk to a lot of women and they say they've never, had these conversations. They never talked about money at home. They've never learned about money. And so that is really what we're here to do. And then we just ask when you need to work with a financial professional that you go to a Purse Strings approved professional, and they are all vetted and approved to really work with females and earn the female dollar. So usually our presenters are Purse Strings approved. Jess isn't, just for the fact that she doesn't do a financial service or sell a financial service, but she is well into starting side hustles. So let me see here. So we are pretty excited to get her on today. Got a couple more people logging in here.
Awesome.
We got another California. We got Colorado.
Nice.
So let me give a quick little introduction to Jess here. So as the founder of Tech Biz Girl, Jessica Williams works with many women who like their 9-to-5, but also want to create additional income streams doing something they love. She is the creator of #JessPicks, a weekly newsletter featuring the best resources and tips for side hustles. Her day includes a mix of doing customer research strategy for the company and yet consulting on various projects at SDI Presence and helping other startups and companies through operations support. When she's not working, you'll probably find her somewhere reading, eating dessert, or dancing. I also want to cover some other highlights that she is also highlighted as one of the 9 Black women leaders dedicated to empowering others, and named as one of the 200 Black women in tech to follow on Twitter in 2018. So
Woo!
clearly you are staying busy all the time.
Yes.
So
Just a little
impressive.
bit.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, my kind of gal.
Yeah.
So Jess, we're so excited to have you here today, and I'll turn the floor over to you.
Oh, yay. Hi, everyone. So excited to be here and talk about side hustles. So I have some slides that we'll be presenting, but if you have questions as we go along, please leave them in the comments, and because I really want to get your questions answered. That's most important to me. But yeah, we're going to dive in. I think Maggie's going to get it going for us. Awesome. All right, so we can go to the next slide. So I'll start by telling you just a little bit about my story. That is me, probably 2 years ago now, but that's me. Next slide, please. So I'm basically telling my story in GIFs and pictures. So I started my side hustle when I was burnout at my day job, looking for inspiration, just trying to figure out like there's more to life than this, right? And I went to Spark and Hustle, and that's a picture from that, where it was all about helping women start businesses and grow their businesses. Next slide, please. Thank you. And after being there, I was so inspired by all these women. They had all these great ideas, and it was there that I realized that I knew things that could help these women. Like I knew a lot about tech because I had spent most of my career working as a technician. And I knew a bit about business as well. And so it's like, maybe I can bring these learnings together to show these women, basically share what I already knew. Because a lot of it was, I was answering a lot of questions about social media at the conference. And while I did not consider myself an expert at all, I still knew things that could help them. And so that made me think, well, maybe I could start a blog all about like the tech pieces of starting an online business. And then Tech Biz Girl was born. The naming came because Jessica Williams was taken all over the place, right? So I had to be creative when it came to figuring out a domain. So basically, it was my three identities, right? I'm a technical girl, I'm a business girl, and I'm a girl, right? And so that name has stuck over the years. So I started my blog. I started blogging about social media stuff, tech stuff, business stuff, just inspirational stuff. And then people started asking for help, right? Then all of a sudden, it's like, I started offering services. You go to the next slide. And then I became a business, right? So it's like, oh, I'm a business now. Money's pouring in, which was great. And then next slide, please. But there were changes along the way. So I lost my job. I had to find another job. And then, and then it's like the business, what's going to happen with the business? And there were just so many twists and turns along the way. Next slide, please. And so I had to pivot a lot. Like I had to find a new job. And with that new job, I was not able to dedicate any time to my blog and my side hustle. So then it's like, okay, now what? Things were left rampant for a long time. And then all of a sudden I was kind of like, okay, I can't do this tech stuff anymore. It's just not feeding my soul. And I'm not at a place where I can even work on my side hustle. So then it's like something's got to change. I need to do something else where at least I can get back to working on my blog and helping women. And then all of a sudden, I kind of put it out to the universe, and all of a sudden I got reconnected to a friend who had been appointed to lead this program for women startups that Barb was talking about, this Wisdom program. And she's like, I need a partner. I think you'd be great. And it's like, what? And it's like I get to help women. That's my job. Well, heck yeah, I'm in. And so that started me down the path of like doing, working with women startups and all that kind of stuff. And that was an amazing experience. And I met amazing women like Barb. But as part of that experience, I also realized that in the startup world, I feel like there's this pressure to quit your job and go all in order to be considered a real entrepreneur. And I realized that that's just not possible for a lot of people. It's not possible for me, mainly because I have a dependent. Like I have my grandma at home and I can't put my finances at risk. So I'm not going to quit my job and go all in on a business. I'd rather start it, on the side and build it up over time. And so just kind of sitting with that and thinking of that made me realize that like we need to talk more about side hustles as an option for people that want to be entrepreneurs. And so I just decided to focus my blog and created my newsletter, Jess Picks, really around starting a side hustle, managing it with your day job, using it as a way to start a business in a low risk way. And then getting to the point where you feel comfortable leaping, instead of just trying to quit your job and then try to get money and then find that you're not able to get money from venture capitalists or customers and then find yourself having to get a job later. Getting a job is never a bad thing. I just want to make that clear. But I think sometimes if we are full-time entrepreneurs and then we find that we have to get a job, like sometimes that makes us feel like a failure. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. I don't believe that. I think you got to do what you got to do. But this is one of the reasons why it's like, let me help you. Let me share what I've learned being a side hustler all this time to help you see that there's another way. Like there's another way to start a business. And I'm going to pause there and get a sip of water. So let me know if there's any questions or comments.
That's awesome. And it's so true about, sometimes you do have to get another job to do a side hustle. It's hard work. It's hard work.
It's hard work.
So,
Absolutely.
got some people cheering you on in here, so I'll let you keep going.
Oh, thank you. Okay, great. Okay, so we'll talk about how to get started. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so the first thing that you really need to do is get clear on why you're starting a side hustle. And if we go to the next slide, I found that most people start a side hustle for one of three reasons, right? So they're trying to earn extra money, which is honestly probably the case for anyone who starts a side hustle, but I don't think it's the main, the only reason that people start a side hustle. But extra money is great, right? Like you might want to earn extra money to travel or pay off debt or, buy puzzles, which would be me over here. Whatever that is. Other people do it because they want to pursue a passion. Maybe, with their day job, they might be burnt out like I was. They might be looking for a creative outlet, or it could just be they want to be a writer. Like they've always wanted to be a writer and, they're just not able to do it anywhere else. And it's a way for them to do it in a low risk way. Other people start a side hustle because they know that they don't want to work for anyone forever. They know that they want to be a full-time entrepreneur, but it's a way for them to just kind of like ease into the business, take that time, figure stuff out while you still have, your expenses covered, and then, make that leap into full-time. Next slide, please. So also in thinking about your why, like sometimes it's like you are compelled to start a business mainly because, you're seeing a need that's not being fulfilled, right? Like you are seeing a group of people that you may identify with that you're just like, you feel called to help. Like you want to help people make healthier lifestyle choices. You feel that like not enough people are talking about X, Y, or Z. And so it's really about thinking about like, what's your motivation behind this? What's your ultimate goal? And what is this thing that you're trying to do? Mainly because like figuring out your why is going to help you keep going because as Maggie was saying, like, this is hard. Like this journey is really, really hard. And having that reason that you're doing this in the first place in your back pocket to remind you to keep going is going to be so important because there will be days that you are ready to throw the laptop out the window. It happens fairly often. It's normal, right? But it's going to be that why, that reason, that impact that you want to make that's going to keep you going. And if it's only to make extra money, that might not keep you going as much as another reason, right? Next slide, please. Can we go back? Just, oh, that is the next slide. Sorry. Forward. Sorry, Maggie. All right. So next thing is to figure out what you can do, and figure out your one thing. So it's like, what do you want to do as a side hustle? Some people, they want to become a writer. They have, they're crafty, like with their hands. They want to create products. It could be anything, right? So it's like, what can you offer right now? And just pick one thing. Like you can create a list of 10, 15 things, right? And I encourage you to do that, but just pick one to start with. And then as you're thinking about that, it's like, what did you love to do when you were a kid? There might be some insights there and some things you can pull out of that. What blogs and books do you love to read? What can you talk about all day? Who are the people that you want to help? There might be some insight in there. What are you doing when you slack off at work? Because we all do, right? Like, so what are you doing at that time? Are you reading business articles? Are you looking up crafts? Like, what are you doing? And like, if you had to charge someone $50 tomorrow, what would you do? And I love that question because it really just forces you to think, if I had to make $50 tomorrow and charge one person to do something, like, what could I do? I could probably coach or do a service or, something, right? So those are some things that can help you think about like what kind of side hustle you can start, which you might already know. You might just be a little afraid to just kind of put it out there because it's scary. But I would think about some of these things as you're trying to figure out, what can I do as a side hustle? Next slide, please. So then there's a few different types of side hustles, and this is by no means an exhaustive list, right? But, you could do a service-based business. So if you have web design illustration skills, you could do something like that. If you wanted to be a coach, right? Like there's so many different types of coaches these days. Life coach, fitness coach, nutritional coach, right? Like all these different things. You could decide to create some digital products, right? So like maybe there's something that you have learned how to do yourself, or there's something that people always ask you about. You can make it into an ebook or create a course around it. And the good thing about that is you create it once and then you can get paid for it over and over again, versus a service business where it's really like time for dollars, right? Then there's, Maggie, did you have something?
Nope, you can keep going.
Oh, okay. Then there's like a content creation based business, which I feel like is a bit newer. So you see people that are bloggers that are making money. There's vloggers, so those people that love video, not me necessarily, that are making money off of YouTube. And then there's me, like being a newsletter creator. So it's not that you're creating content necessarily and making money because you're creating content, but there are other ways to make money as a content creator. So that's where the advertising comes into play. You get money through affiliate marketing, which is basically promoting products that you use and love to other people. And then if they buy it, you can make commission off of that. So it's like, if the content is making it possible, but it's not always necessarily the content itself that's making you money. So those are just a few different types of side hustles, just to kind of get that brain working. Okay.
I want to jump in here, let you get some water for a minute, take a breath, of course. Yeah, people are in here saying, it is such an important topic. If 2020 did show us anything, it's more than one stream of income is definitely essential. And I did want to just hone back in on, like, it is all about that why, and some days are long, and I get the whole throwing out the computer thing. And so, you really need to find your passion. And for purse strings, we've seen so many women struggle, and we've seen so many women, who should be retired, but they're still bagging groceries, and we want them to have, good retirement, because that's what they deserve. And that's what we've all worked hard for, and that's really what drives us every day. But I know for you have so much great knowledge to share. It almost feels selfish just keeping it all to yourself.
Yeah, but it's hard too sometimes, right? Like I deal with imposter syndrome a lot, and so it's like, and if you're not familiar with imposter syndrome, it's this feeling that like you're a fraud, and like someone's gonna knock on your door one day and say, you don't belong here, or, you're a fraud or something like that. And I deal with that all the time because it's like, wait, I'm doing a side hustle talk. Who am I to think I could do a side hustle talk? Or I'm not the side hustle expert, right? And so, first of all, I have to realize that I'm doing that, and that's my internal voice having a field day. But then just to realize that, like, this is kind of what I was saying earlier about being an expert, right? Like sometimes I think we feel that we have to be this expert before we can teach something or share something or coach or what have you. But really, it's about knowing more than the next person. And honestly, that makes you actually a lot easier to learn from because you're not like at this level. You're just kind of like maybe just a step above, which is great. And so that's something to remember. And so that's what I try to remind myself. It's like, okay, I don't consider myself an expert, but I've done this for a long time. So let me share what I've done, and hopefully people can learn from that. So yeah,
That's definitely something a lot of females struggle with, especially.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely know that feeling. And, then you realize sometimes, you don't think you know enough compared to the guy up here, but then you look at everybody else and you're like, oh, I guess I do know quite a bit in this topic.
Yeah.
So
You know more
I'll
than
let
you
you
think.
keep going, of course.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Okay. What's next? Okay. So make time. And then we could go on to the next slide too. So time is a big thing when it comes to side hustling, right? Like there's so many people are like, well, how do you find time? It's kind of about making time, right? Like I think there's a bit of a balance there, but just some tips that I've learned from my own life is you can think about time blocking. So I learned this tip when I was in college, and it's essentially just like taking one of those calendars or like weekly calendars, or you can even do this like in a Google Calendar or something, that has like the days across the top and the hours across the side, and really just start plotting down everything that you have going on, right? So when are you working at your day job? When are you asleep? When are you having dinner with the family? When are you working out? Like whatever those commitments are. And I know not so much now, but like, pre-pandemic, like when were you commuting? Like all that kind of stuff. Did I mention sleep? Maybe. But when are you sleeping? If I didn't mention that. And so then just mark down everything and then see what's left over. And then that gives you a clear idea of like where you already have commitments and what is the amount of time you have left over. Because that can then help you figure out, okay, based on this, how much time can I devote to this side hustle? And in thinking about that, I want you to understand that like you don't have to find these 10 to 20 hours a week to do this, right? Like you kind of have to see what's going to work best for you and what you have going on in your life. So that could look like an hour every evening, right? That could look like maybe nothing during the week and just having Saturday as your side hustle day. That could look like, I don't know, 3 hours here, 3 hours there. But whatever that is, like be honest with yourself about how much time you can spend on this. I mean, if it's 30 minutes a day, that's enough time to get a lot done, believe it or not. So figure out what makes sense, and then I would start blocking off that time as your side hustle time. The other things that you can keep in mind from a time management perspective is, I call these hidden minutes. And granted, we're not really commuting anymore, but if you get back to commuting, there might be things that you can do on your commute, right? Like, so if you're driving, you can listen to an audiobook, you can verbally record your next blog post, right? If there's wait time, if you are going to the doctor, if you're waiting for groceries, whatever, you could, do some social media. Then you could outline your next blog post. You could, write down some ideas, respond to client emails. You could do, again, like phone calls on the go. But what I like to do sometimes if I'm doing an actual phone call is I'll walk around in the house while I'm on the phone. So I'm kind of getting a little bit of fitness in, just sneaking it in there. Just as a way to just kind of like do a couple things at once. And then saying no. Oh, this is so hard. I struggle with this all the time. It is very hard for me to say no. But this is the time, right? Like if you are starting the side hustle, it has to become a priority for you. And so you might have to say yes to this when you're saying no to other things, right? Like, TV time, or, virtual happy hour or something like that. Then I am not saying that you can't watch TV or have fun or any of that, because I am a big believer that you can't just work. You have to rest and have fun and play and all that kind of stuff. But there might be some things that you have to say no to just to make time for you to do your side hustle. I am a fan of sleeping. I'm not a part of the team no sleep culture. I'm a fan of Netflixing or Huluing or whatever. So I watch my fair share of TV. It's my break, right? So I'm not saying that you have to cut those things out, but just kind of be mindful of what you say yes to now that you're starting this side hustle. All right, next slide. Okay. So then it's about, you kind of figured out what you want to do. You've kind of figured out when you can work on your side hustle. Then it's about experimenting. Can you do the next slide, please? So put your offer out there. So whatever that is, let's say if you're doing a coaching service, right? So you could say, hey, people, I'm open for business. I'm doing free live coaching calls for 3 people, just to get my feet wet, just to get some feedback. And then people will sign up. You'll do the calls, see what happens, right? Basically tell everybody that you're open for business to get those first few guinea pig clients. And then sit back and think about how that process went. Did you like coaching? Was it the right topic that you enjoy talking about? Is 1 hour enough? Do you need longer? Do you need shorter? All those things, right? Start thinking about all those things. You might decide that you don't even like coaching after going through this process. But the goal is to really try it. As one of my coaches would say, put on your Nancy Drew hat, right? Like you are a detective and you're trying to see what works for you right now. And so the more you experiment, the clearer you'll get. You'll figure out what you should do next. Next slide, please. And then rinse and repeat, right? So if that coaching offer went well, then do more. Start putting prices out there, or decide that you don't want to coach, you want to do something else. Then put that out there, see how it goes. So much of being a side hustler and just being a business owner, honestly, is trying things, seeing what works, iterating, pivoting if you need to, and then, going forward and learning more and evolving as you go. Next slide. So legal bits, right? So I would say this is my hold off on the legal bits for now, especially if you're just starting, because so much of what you think that you might do as a business is probably going to change. And I wouldn't want you to spend the money to try to figure out all this legal stuff before you've even figured out what kind of business you are, right? So when I started my side hustle, I was like, I am going to be a social media manager, and that's the plan, right? That lasted probably all of 6 months, because after I started doing social media management, I realized I don't like doing social media for other people. Not my thing. I like doing social media for me. But I'm saying, like, if I would have done legal stuff then, it probably would have needed to change, because now, like, even over the years, my business model has changed. And now I'm essentially making money off my newsletter and some coaching, right? So it's like, sometimes you just kind of got to wait until you've done all that experimentation and you feel pretty confident in what you're going to offer as a business. So I would say hold off on the legal bits for now. Okay, next slide. Okay, so a few other things to keep in mind, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So make time for self-care. As I said before, I'm 100% team sleep, right? I don't like hustle culture. I think it puts a lot of pressure on people to not sleep and, not watch TV and not take a break. Like, I want you to start this business Sure, but you have a business and you have a day job. Like, I want you to have time to actually live and not just work and take care of yourself, because you can burn out so quickly doing this side hustle dance. And so you need to make time for self-care, just like you're making time for this business. So I would say, think about what types of things fill you up. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a bubble bath, right? Or a manicure. For me, self-care is reading a book before bed, or working on a jigsaw puzzle, or watching a movie with a friend. Like, little things like that fill up my cup so that I have the energy to do this business and all this kind of stuff. So make time for self-care. Celebrate the baby steps, right? Like, this is hard, right? Like, no one said, starting a side hustle was easy, or doing anything aside from, even working isn't easy, right? Like, even being employees isn't easy, but you are driven to create something. You're driven to make an impact. And so whatever you do in pursuit of those things is worth celebrating, even if it's a little tiny baby step, because I will tell you that it's weird how this works, but if you put something out into the universe, and I learned this from the book The Alchemist, which, if you haven't read it, it's great. If you put something out into the universe and you take action towards that, even a tiny baby step, like, the universe conspires to help you get it, right? Like, you have come to this side hustle talk today, right? Like, you don't even know what ripple effect that's making in you starting and growing and building this business. But it's like, you've taken a step, so let's help you take more steps, right? So as you do things, just celebrate, because this is not easy. This is really, really hard. And I want you to acknowledge the actions that you're taking on this journey. Next slide, please. So your day job is not the enemy. Something else to keep in mind. It's so hard to remember that most days, especially if you don't like your day job, right? Like, a lot of people start a side hustle because they hate their day job. And granted, I kind of did that too. But just keep in mind that, like, it's not the enemy. It is funding your business. It is giving you the space to experiment and explore. One of my friends told me something that I've never forgotten. One year I was like trying to sell something. I don't even know what it was. And I was getting so frustrated because people weren't buying. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like a complete failure. And she's like, it's okay. It's like, your expenses are covered. So you have the time to kind of experiment and see what's going on. Like, you don't have to make money right now. And I was like, huh, right? Now, granted, it's a side hustle, so it has to make money eventually. But it's like, you have the space to experiment because your expenses are covered. So if your side hustle is not making money at first, that's okay. The goal is to experiment, explore, figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, how you like to work, all these kinds of things. And your day job lets you do that. And so that's why I want you to consider it a friend, because it's helping you in ways that you might not realize. Okay, next. And most importantly, like, you get to define success for you, right? Like, that may look different than what other people are doing. So I have realized in my life, I was very much I'm going to start this side hustle, and I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do, and I'm going to turn it into a full-time business, and that's going to be the thing. Because that's what people do, right? When you start a side hustle, it becomes a full-time business, and that's the path. No, it's really not. And that's what I've learned just by doing it, right? Like, I've also learned that I don't want my side hustle to become a full-time business. And that's okay. But, like, people don't understand that. They're just like, well, why? Like, why wouldn't you? And I was like, well, I could find fulfillment from my day jobs. Plus, I do like having a stable paycheck. I do like having health insurance, right? Not to say that you can't get all that as a full-time entrepreneur, but, like, everyone's risk tolerance is very different. And so I've defined that for myself, that, like, my side hustle will stay a side hustle, and I'm going to continue to have day jobs. Or, even right now, I have 2 day jobs and a side hustle, which again is not typical, right? But like I've defined that works for me, right? And so people might not understand it, but they don't know what I'm dealing with. They don't know my motivations or kind of what I'm trying to accomplish or any of that. But that is what success looks like to me. Now, granted, I may not always do 2 jobs and a side hustle. There might be some weird combination, but like I get to decide that. I get to decide what works for me. I get to decide what success looks like for me. And right now, um, business wise, I'm like, if I can do my newsletter every week, that's success for my business to me. If I do nothing else but my newsletter every week, that is what I call success. So if I don't blog, if I don't coach, if I don't sell anything, that's okay, as long as I get my newsletter out every week. And so you get to define and decide like what that is for you and your business as well. Okay, next slide. Oh, looks like I'm done. All right. So any questions? I feel like I talked a lot, so hopefully that wasn't too much.
No, that was absolutely fantastic. Let me add everybody else back in here. Yeah, you got some great thumbs up throughout, and so many of those things are so relatable, as running a small business. So we'd love to get some questions people have, or share your small business or your side hustle that you've been working on, so we can all just give you some kudos to that. So please share those in the chat, and we'll pop those up.
Or share your whys, like why you want to start your side hustle or why you started your side hustle. I'd love to hear those too. No, thank you.
Do you have any advice on how to ... set prices?
Oh, I am terrible at prices. I will honestly say that. So I have heard things like, you're not pricing your time necessarily, you're pricing the value that people get out of it. I have a hard time seeing my value, and this is probably why Barb is in my life, to help me realize my worth. But I will say, at least as a starting point, what I've done price-wise is just kind of look at other people that are doing similar services or offering similar things, and then pricing comparably to that. If I am just starting out, I may go on the lower end, because I've learned also that, at least for me, pricing has a lot to do with how I feel about pricing. So like I could charge $100, but like, am I comfortable charging $100? Because if I'm not comfortable charging $100, it's going to show in what I do, what I put out. So I also have to feel comfortable with that price. But at least if I see that it's comparable to somebody else, then I can get there, right? And so I might have to stair step it a bit, where it's like I might start on the lower end, but as I'm doing more and as I'm getting more confident, then I raise the price as I go. So I hope that helps. I by no means an expert, but that's what's worked for me.
That's a great question, Amanda. Thank you. Dr. Barb, what do you have to say about all this?
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating, Jess. I mean, you just gave so much really great information to think through the whole process
Thank you.
of, starting a side hustle and things to consider and think about. But like a listener said, 2020 has taught us anything is you cannot just have one stream of income. Can you share, Jess, a few different side hustles that you've seen people do as examples?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, oh dear. So I guess it kind of depends on what you're looking to do, but like I have a friend, Dina, who runs a podcast, and that is her side hustle, right? And so she makes money, I believe, mostly through sponsorships and possibly donations. I had a friend, Vanessa, who did social media management on the side. Now, she also did that as part of her job, which is another thing too that you might want to think about when you're choosing your side hustle. Sometimes, like if let's say you're a web designer in your day job, you might not want to be a web designer as a side hustle, right? Like it may just be too much web design. You might want to do something different. But some people might like to do that too. So it could be something that you're already using in your day job or something else. but yeah, like social media management, I've seen, I'm trying to think who else. Freelance writing, like writing for publications and getting paid. If you are crafty, like opening an Etsy store, selling like crochet knit type things. Some people, if they're good from a design perspective, like they'll sell templates or things you can print, stuff like that. Of course, there's services, right? Like, so, you know, if you want to be a coach, you could do something like that. If you want to uh, do graphic design or, you know, for other people, that's an option.
Well, even Uber, I mean, people have just said,
Yes.
you know, I remember talking to a few Uber drivers, as we all are curious about why they drive and a little bit about them. And yeah, many have said, I use this solely for my vacation fund, or,
Oh, I
you know,
love that.
something like that. That's where that money goes. So it doesn't have to be something that you create on your own, but it can be, you know, there are so many ways to earn a little bit money on the side. I mean, all these delivery services that we have now, especially with COVID, is a nice side hustle to take on. And they're very flexible. I mean, with Uber or Lyft, you can really choose your own hours and things like that. So there's a lot of flexibility in that way. I do
Oh,
want to,
absolutely.
yeah, I want to comment on something about the value and what you charge, because that's always a difficult question. And I do see with women that they do not value their services as much. I even talked to an attorney, a woman the other day, who said, you know, I cannot charge women like the full boat, especially some of the women that are really struggling financially these days. And she said, but my male colleagues have no problem with it. So part of it is your own sense of, you know, what you feel good about charging. But I do know that oftentimes women will charge a price and then immediately be willing to discount it, like,
Yes.
which shows kind of a sign of uncertainty, or maybe they're not worth it. But that's, I mean, that could be a whole nother discussion, but I like your advice on really looking out to benchmark with other people doing the similar service and at what level they're doing it, either expert, beginner, or whatever, and then adjust accordingly. But I often say, just name your price and don't say another word, you know, count to 10 and bite your tongue and just kind of say, that's what I'm worth. That's my value. I do want to say one more thing. I saw this funny meme and I posted it, and it said, cutting a wire, like $1, knowing which wire to cut, $999.
Yeah. I love that.
Which is
And
all the wealth and experience and knowledge and skill and education that we bring to the table. That's what people pay for, not how long it takes to cut the wire.
That's a
and
good point.
piggyback on that, you don't need to justify your price. You know, you don't need to explain how to that price you got. And it's because I have this education or this experience. I mean, if that's what you think you're worth, own it, you know, and if they're not your customer, they're not your customer.
100%.
That's how it works. Yeah. People in here saying Uber, Lyft, Instacart, DoorDash, Wag. There's so many things people can get started, flexible.
I've
They're all
also
really great ideas.
done, now this isn't like lots of money at all, but like user testing is another thing you can do just to make, like, I guess people call it like beer money or something like that. But it's a way, like, people want testers for their websites, their apps, and you can pretty much get like, I don't know, like $5-10 for 10 minutes of your time for certain of those surveys. So like, it's just extra little spending money. So that's also an option. There's a bunch of user testing sites out there. So there's one called usertesting.com, but there's others as well. So I would look up that. Of course, there's also surveys, right? But I think you're going to do a lot more work to earn money for those. And some people just use it to get like Amazon gift cards and stuff like that. So there's definitely a lot of different options for. Oh, were you saying something, Maggie?
You froze up a little bit, Mag.
Yeah, I've done a couple of those in person, and they've been very interesting. They come few and far between, the ones that you have to qualify for, but
Mm-hmm.
one was like asking me to fill a vape pen, but I've never used a vape, so it was like very strange. And other ones, you just had to click around on a computer in front of them and walk out with $200. I was like, okay.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I'll take that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So freezing here a little bit.
Yeah. Let me just wrap up by asking Jess, tell us about your newsletter, who it serves, and it's one of my favorites. I share it all the time, and how people can jump on your newsletter.
Yeah. So my newsletter is called Just Picks, and it I mentioned earlier that like I want people to see side hustles as another option to start a business, diversify their income, all that good stuff. So I also love finding helpful resources and tips and articles for people. So Just Picks is basically a curation of all that. So I typically will share, I send it out weekly every Saturday. I say that it pairs perfectly with your Saturday morning coffee. And I have heard that readers actually read it with their Saturday morning coffee. So yay. But I'll share a little bit about like what's going on with me, my journey, my personal stories, because I think it's good to share that kind of stuff, the ups and the downs. And then I will typically share like articles, tools, movies, like we're human, right? So we're not just a worker bee. So things that I'm finding helpful that week, things that I'm finding inspirational, and then articles that are helpful to help you run your side hustle, start your side hustle, or just take care of yourself, because self-care needs to be such a big part of this conversation. So that's my newsletter. I think it's great. I basically say it's the best tips and resources for side hustlers every week. And you can subscribe by going to techbizgirl.com/justpicks, which I think we can put in the comments to subscribe. But yeah, I'd love to have you subscribe. That would be awesome.
Yeah. And we will also.
And is it?
Oh, can I? I think I can type it.
PICKS, right?
But yes, PICKS.
Yeah, and then when what we always do with these Facebook Lives is for people who want a synopsis, or if somebody couldn't make it, we will put together a little step-by-step handout that kind of encapsulates what you've shared with us today. And of course, we'll have a link to your techbizgirl.com/justpicks. And I highly, highly recommend it. I said to Jess, it's the one newsletter that I read thoroughly. I click on the links. It's such great information. It's so useful. And believe me, I get a lot of newsletters, and yours is the one that I read top to bottom and send out, because it's really great. Yeah, it's really great.
That means a lot.
Yeah. So, Mags, you want to wrap it up and let people know what's coming up?
Yeah, so Jess, thank you again so much for coming on today, and being part of our Purse Strings group in this, safe community where we can talk about money and what we should charge and how we should get started. These are all really important conversations for us to be having, especially as women. Next week, we are going a little less financial and doing, we're going to have Mary Ann come on and talk to us about feng shuiing our home for the new year for prosperity. And I was actually talking to her the other day, and she was saying that the feng shui year is from pretty sure February 14th to the next year, February 14th. So we're 4th. So we are just in time to feng shui our houses for prosperity for the new year, for the new feng shui year. So we're very excited about that. We'll be here every Thursday at noon Central. And then in February, we have some couple more financial topics lined up that we're pretty excited about. So we'll share those soon. But we hope to see everybody on here next week. We'll put a recap of our step-by-step out tomorrow. And this video will always be in our recordings under this new Facebook thing called Units. Facebook keeps adding more things. So, so thank you everyone for coming on today. It's been so great. Jess, you've been so great. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Jess.
All right, we'll talk later.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.